So wonderful. So I'd like to welcome my interview guest for today, which is Siv. Everybody calls him Siv. He has a complicated name, which allow yourself to say it. He's a colleague here in Canada from University of Waterloo, and I know him for many, many years. And he has done wonderful work in mathematical medicine. But before we go into the details, maybe Siv, just introduce yourself just quickly.
Okay. So I'm Sivaloganathan. As Thomas said, it takes a lot of practice to get that right. So I'm a professor of applied mathematics at the University of Waterloo, and also director of the Center for Mathematical Medicine at the Fields Institute.
All right, so in the 90s you came to Waterloo. Mm-hmm. At that time, did you already work on mathematical medicine?
No, actually, interestingly enough, I've come from completely the other side, from the dark side. I was.
What is the dark side?
The very pure mathematical side,
okay.
and gradually shifted to sort of things like analytic theory of Navier-Stokes, because I've sort of ended up doing PhD in computational fluid dynamics, and it so turns out, research, as you know, is very serendipitous in a sense. And my wife is a physician who had been at the hospital for sick children, and she'd seen me scribbling equations and talking about the stress tensor and things like that. And she said there are very interesting problems in the brain that neurosurgeons have no idea about.
Right. Okay.
And so that's how she introduced me to a junior neurosurgeon at the Hospital for Sick Children, Jim Drake.
Okay.
Who then became chief surgeon at the Hospital for Sick Children. And I always joke about it, but there's an element of truth that I think I met the only humble neurosurgeon in existence. So this.
So maybe we have to cut this out.
So this led to a very long collaboration, and just recently he told me he's decided to step down and.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right, yeah. So what kind of disease would you then focus on in this?
Well, at the beginning, with great trepidation, he sort of told me about this condition, hydrocephalus, in the brain, and the treatment was insertion of a shunt into the central ventricle. And he said he didn't know where to insert it, and or he just did it through experience, etc. And he wondered. Of course, I had no clue about the biology, etc. And the problem looked so daunting. I actually approached it with great trepidation. I thought we're not going to get anywhere. But the amazing thing is that the human organism is so robust in a sense that even with simple. It's a bit like portrait painting. I always say that, you leave out all the peripheral things, but if you get the main mechanisms right, you actually.
Good idea.
So that led to, and Jim actually, to be honest, had a background initially. His first degree was in mechanical engineering. So his appreciation, although he said he'd forgotten all of it, of the potential for mathematics to make an impact, he didn't need too much convincing. So that's how it started off, and then with Princess Margaret Hospital, the oncology side.
Right.
And that, in a sense, was because I started thinking, I know we're all mathematicians, academics, and sometimes the grants and the papers take on a disproportionate importance, and so to actually work on something without overclaiming its efficacy, etc., but which may have a real impact on human life, felt like a good.
That's what you wanted to
do.
Very nice. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So now, moving forward a little bit in your career, so what are like topics of interest to you now?
Yes. So I think mathematical oncology has been a major focus. I mean, if you were to say that mathematical medicine, I think many people say as a discipline over the last 20, 30 years, has taken center stage in modern applied mathematics. Of course, there are the theoretical aspects, but many of us, do, look at the real problem and then look at the real mathematical problem underlying it.
Right.
then I think you could say that mathematical oncology has taken center stage in mathematical medicine. It's an area that's attracted very strong mathematicians.
But you specifically, so what kind of problems are you working
on specifically, okay. So a thing that's occupied a significant amount of my time in the last few years is this new, potentially, could become one of the gold standards of a therapeutic modality in cancer, which is known as HIFU, or high intensity focused ultrasound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The attraction of this is that it really, as long as you can monitor the temperature variations in normal tissue, etc., it gives you a way of treating tumors, solid tumors, most specifically, with minimal side effects.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have the effects of radiation, and you have examples. Jim's treated people with bone sarcomas, and once, who can hardly walk in intense pain, and once that's taken out, you don't need this long recovery period, half an hour, an hour.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I find, and it has a plethora of potential applications, especially related to fluid dynamics and non-Newtonian fluid dynamics. So that's taken a lot of my attention. But the whole field now, as you know, Thomas, is, mushroomed. I mean, now,
Yes.
From the early models of Jim Murray and others, where you had simple mathematical models,
Right.
which gave the qualitative features, to now integration of genomics, proteomics, imaging, etc. So that, there are people, there are groups that do very good quantitative predictions.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we get this flood,
Yes.
availability of data.
Yes.
As you say, imaging or omics or whatever. So
Yes.
do you see this as an opportunity, or does it scare you?
I think, and you probably will agree with me, that as mathematicians, one of the distinctive features from, say, clinicians and biomedical scientists is that we're always looking for some unifying principles.
Some principles,
And Occam's razor for all of us, we don't want a more complicated model than is absolutely necessary. So, I'm always wary of a model with 20,000 differential equations and parameters, because quite simply, you've taken an incredibly complicated problem in biology, cancer biology, and replaced it with an equally complicated problem in computational mathematics. So there has to be a balance. You need a certain degree of complexity for sure when you're trying to integrate multiple scales, etc. But you also have to bear in mind that really this all-singing, all-dancing mathematical model that encompasses everything doesn't exist, right?
Doesn't exist, right?
So you want to find ways of transferring information from lower scales to higher scales and vice versa, and be able to sort of take out a model that for a particular problem you're trying to understand.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now you have, over your career, you have worked a lot with young scientists and students and so on.
Yes.
So what would be your recommendation for a young scientist to enter this area?
Yeah.
As a career?
I think probably the primary thing, and for a classically trained mathematician, the most difficult probably, is to develop these interdisciplinary skills. The ability to talk with clinicians, biologists, and in a sense, for mathematicians, it's easier to pick up that jargon when you're looking at a biological problem, and to be able to interpret your results rather than vice versa, asking clinicians or cancer biologists to learn some PDEs or understand that. So develop those interdisciplinary skills, and then certainly the mathematical techniques is a crucial part.
Yeah.
But then the biology and things of the problem that you're studying is important. Also, I think you want to bear in mind that really no area of mathematics is per se excluded from this field.
Right.
the crucial thing is that whatever you use has to give insight and some sort of guidance to the problem you're studying, the clinical problem. So that's the focus, I think. The clinical problem is the major thing, and whatever you use should be able to answer something there.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I heard this from an old dean many years ago, that if you looked at society and where mathematics can make an impact, he said, if you were to put a warning sign saying it may contain mathematics, you would have to virtually put it on everything. Now, about 20 years ago, medicine might have been the last thing, but now I think you can slap that on medicine as
too.
well. Yeah,
Yes, which is good. Yeah, this is wonderful. Great insights, and so thank you for the time here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Actually, before you go, in your very nice opening talk, I think you had a quote of Theodosius Dabansky. Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution.
Oh, right, yeah, I said that. Right, yeah.
Initially, a long time ago when I heard that, I thought, yeah, and then I thought no, because I thought, because I thought his idea was that the genetic switches are what give rise, and then the mutations in the genes give rise to that. But I realize now that he's absolutely right, because he wasn't, especially looking at Waddington's input into this, he's not talking about evolution just as a one-way flow. There are environmental effects which can feed down and affect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
So in that sense, I think he's absolutely right. Yeah.